channel. Today we are taking a look at the Snaptain SP680 budget beginner drone. But actually I had bought this SP650 about 3.5 years ago. But this one had a 1080p camera and they bumped it up to a 2.7K camera. But before I get into the review of this drone, let's talk about the different prices out there on this drone. So this one's at Best Buy for this price, $159. It's a non-GPS drone and it has brushed motors, which puts it in the very budget beginner drone. Is it worth $159? No, it's not. But I'm sure there's a lot of families out there that wanted to get little Johnny a drone and they're walking up and down the aisles. They saw this drone and it was one of the cheapest ones they saw at Best Buy and they thought it was a good deal because Best Buy sells it at that price. That's got to be good, right? No. And even if you go to Amazon, the Snaptain website, they're selling these for $149. But there's other vendors out there on Amazon that sell these for $49 like this one, and it's 10% off right now with them, so it brings it down to $45. And if you look, that's the same price on eBay for this drone. So is it a good drone at $50? Absolutely, but it's a 3.5-year-old drone, so how does it compare to the new drones? So I'll take it outside, I'll show you how good it flies. It flies really good, it's got a good camera. But it is a brushed motor drone. What does that mean? It's got little gears in there. And if you get these motors in a bind, they're gonna strip out. And where brushed motors are more like two magnets spinning inside of each other. And it's not a GPS drone, so the satellites aren't locked into it. So if you go outside and there's a little bit of wind, it's gonna get blown around. But it's real important to start with the budget beginner drone. I've shown this guy a couple hundred times, but if most people go out and spend a couple thousand on a drone, they come home with something like this, because they don't understand the orientation of a drone. So it's real important to start on a drone with under $50, not $150, especially on this one. So I'm gonna take it outside and we'll fly it, I'll show it to you, then we'll come back down, I'll sit down, I'll go over the interface with the app, all the functions of the drone, then we'll come back for our final review. Let's go put her up in the air. So there's a little bit of wind. Go straight to speed 2, speed 3. Yeah, the camera looks really good on this. Let me start out by saying this is a fun little flyer. I mean, there's no latency in the controls. Some of these budget drones, when you turn them left to right, it takes them a second. This one is spot on. I mean, it turns instantly. It's fun to fly. It's very easy to fly. There's some flips. It does flips really well. Only do those outside. Don't do those inside. It takes too much room. As you can tell by the pond, there's not a lot of room. So this is not a GPS drone. So it does not hook onto the satellites to hold its position. So if there's any wind, you're the person that's going to be in control. It's funny, I've had people complain recently about some budget beginner drones that won't hold their position, but that's kind of like buying a soccer ball and getting upset if it rolls downhill. I mean, just physics. I'm really surprised by this camera. I'll show that to you in a minute. So here I'm doing a range test. The max on this is about 300 yards, maybe 400, but I wouldn't push it past 200 yards. It's just not worth it. I have 2 of them, so if I lose one, I'm not worried about it. But if you just bought this drone, don't push it past farther than you can see it, especially if you're trying to look down at the camera and there's a little bit of wind. I've lost several of these drones. I looked down at the camera for more than 4 or 5 seconds. I looked up, I lost orientation, and aliens grabbed it out of the sky because it just disappeared, and I never found it. So in the beginning, don't look down at your camera. I wouldn't even use the camera in the beginning. Just try to watch the drone until you get used to flying it, you start learning the orientation of it, and pretty soon your skill set's so good that you don't even have to think about it when you're flying it. But have an agenda too. I don't just aimlessly fly it around or it starts getting boring. The whole purpose of this drone is to learn how to fly a drone and how to have fun with it. Try to take different pictures from different angles, have it circle you, facing towards you, then have it face away from you and try to spin it around. So just do some different things with it all the time and try to work on your skill set. So this thing's a lot of fun to fly. You can't do that. You can't do the return. It says return to home. Well, I've tried doing return to home. Of course return to home doesn't work. It's not a GPS drone. Sometimes it'll just fly into a wall. So here's some pictures that I took with it. The color saturation's really pretty good. It is the middle of winter, so there's not a lot of color to be looking at, but it's really good still images. And here's some video that I took. And here's it taken off. Not bad. You see that jello? That's when it was first starting. It kind of got better as I was flying it around. So this drone is under 250 grams if you're just getting into the hobby, which is really important. That means you don't have to register with the FAA, but what's even more important, starting next year, all drones over 250 grams are gonna have to have a remote beacon. Yeah, see how it's starting to really start to look better, the camera. Here's a flip. You can see the flips in the camera, that's kind of funny. And here is the video when I'm kind of up in the wind, kind of high, and I'm looking down. It's actually pretty good. You know, there's not much wind, but for a budget beginner drone that doesn't have a 3-axis gimbal, this is kind of surprising that this video is actually this good. So I review a lot of budget beginner drones, and I try to make one good point per video. So my good point on this one, which is really exemplified by the way that Best Buy tries to sell this drone for $159. I'm sure they sold a lot of them, but it's $49 on Amazon with a 10% discount. It's $45. So I do have the link below. It does help the channel if you buy it. And Snaptain did send me this one. I bought the other one, but they sent me this one. And once you get good at this drone, you can hand catch it. So let's go inside and we'll go over the interface with the app and have the functions of the drone. She weighs in at 153 grams. So how much is 153 grams? It's about the same weight as a medium-sized apple. Oh wait. It's almost the same weight as a medium-sized apple. All right, so on the drone, it does come with extra props. It does come with some little extra screws and a handy-dandy screwdriver, and you just replace the props by, there's a little screw in there. And they are not labeled, so make sure the angle of attack is the correct one for the arm that it's on, or it's not gonna fly right. It does come with prop guards. They are very easy to pop on. They do increase the size of it a lot though, and also, not being a GPS drone, if it's windy outside, these do grab just a little bit more wind. But if you're a new beginner, I would definitely fly with them on in case you run into something. They are brushed motors, so there's a little gear in here. So if these ever get caught in something, it's gonna strip that little gear. Can you fix it? Yeah, but pretty much the drone is worthless if you do that. It comes with a charger and mine came with 3 batteries. It's a green and red while it's charging, and then it just turns green. It's a 1500 milliwatt amp battery, and I was getting about 14 minutes with a little bit of a breeze outside. Comes with a nice remote. You got to snap on the piece for your phone. It takes 4 AAAs in the back. So the camera is removable. If you ever damage it, you can replace it. And this is the 2.7K camera. Even though, and the old one was a 1080, even though they do look identical, they probably just changed the resolution of the way the camera pixelates so they are not modular batteries. And this is kind of a pain to open up this little compartment. You kind of want to, it seems like you want to open it the other way. So you got to pull this out and unhook it and then slide it back in. You could also even just leave it in the drone and charge it that way. For non-modular batteries, it is easy, but for small fingers, it's just a modular battery would have been much easier. But at this price point, I really like the fact that it's not a foldable drone. Most beginner drones are foldable drones, and this one is not, but it's a much sturdier flyer. So on the remote, here's the trim. So if it seems to be sliding to the left or to the right, you just hold down on the opposite direction if you want it to go until it seems to be trimmed out. So of course it's not a GPS drone, so if there's a little bit of wind, you are going to be the pilot in command to keep it in control. It comes with the user manual and a quick start guide, and there's a QR code in here to get the app. So right there is where you turn it on. Up here is where you change the speeds. There's 3 speeds. Right here's your flip button. Be careful doing flips. It takes a lot of room. A short press to take a photo, long press to do a video, take off and land. And that's return to home in headless mode. So don't ever hit that button. It's not a GPS drone. It's just going to fly into the wall, and you don't want headless mode because that just takes away the orientation of the drone. And the whole purpose of having a beginner drone is to learn the orientation of the controls. And on this button, you press it once and it'll spin in place. And if you hold down on it, it'll do a circle fly and kind of fly in a big circle. And the emergency stop button is also the speed button. I don't like that. You may be pressing it to try to change your speeds, and the emergency stop will make it fall out of the sky. So if it seems to be getting away from you and flying towards a pond or towards a tree, and you just want it to follow it, you hold down on the speed button. So when you turn the drone on, turn it on right here, it'll blink at you. Make sure it's on a flat surface. Go up and down on the left stick to bind it, because it's not bound to it. It's not going to work unless you do that every time. And then you want to calibrate it. So make sure it's on a flat surface. There's a gyro in there, and you want to calibrate the gyros. And how you do that is you pull down and to the right. It'll blink at you again. Now it's ready for takeoff. So you can either A, hit the takeoff button, or you can take both joysticks and pull them down and out, and that'll start the motors. And then you can just push up on it. Because when you do the takeoff button, it's just gonna go up and it's gonna hover about 3 feet. But maybe you just wanted to see, make sure the props are spinning good. Like that. See, that emergency stop will stop it. So I use my phone to fly it, but let me show on my iPad how to work the interface with the app. So open up your camera and go up to the appropriate, I'm using iOS. That'll take you to the website. Download Snaptain SP680. Open it up. Now it's not going to work because it is a Wi-Fi drone, so it's not going to work. So what you have to do is go back to your settings, go to your Wi-Fi, make sure it's connected to your Wi-Fi. Now it's using the Wi-Fi from your device, not your home, so you can fly it anywhere. Go back to the website. Let me go back to the app. Pick the appropriate drone. It's the SP680. And now the camera's working. It's a really good camera. Look at that. My goodness, for a $50 drone, in the old days you couldn't get a camera that good for $50. Now, what I'm going to suggest is you don't use the app for the controls. You just, everything on here will work that's on. Everything that's on here is on the remote, and it just seems to function better. You can also turn the camera up and down. Take a picture. Now we can go back and we can look at our media. Right here, I like this. It does show the battery and the signal strength. And this is your takeoff and landing. And right here is where we want to go back and look at the pictures we just took. So here's our photos. Look at that. That's really good. My goodness, that's a really good camera. And then here's the video that it just took. A little bit of jello. Time to take the Christmas trees back down. All right, so it saves it to the app, and then you can download it from the app. There's no SD card. So I really do like the lights on it. I like it better when the green is in the front and the red is in the back. But as long as you learn the orientation of it, it sure makes it a lot easier when it's up in the sky. Because the drone's shaped the same from all directions, so it's kind of hard to tell when it's up there. So if you're flying it at night, you can see it. If not, you can look at the app to see the phone, to see which direction they're going. So let's go back for our final review. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the review of the Snaptain SP680. What do I think about it? I think it's a fantastic flying drone. The technology at this level of a drone hasn't really changed that much. I always say drone years are like dog years. So if a drone is 2 or 3 years old, then it's pretty much outdated, but not at this level. The only thing that this one doesn't check the boxes of is it doesn't have the modular batteries, so you gotta plug them in, and it doesn't have the long flight time of some of the new budget beginner drones out there, like the DE-RC D60 flew for like 22 minutes, which is almost double what this one flies. But let me say, I do like the design of this drone over some of the foldable ones to be a beginner drone. This one's similar to the DJI Phantom that came out series that is discontinued, but this thing was always a really good workhorse. It flew fantastic because this was one of the original designs that drones are, where everyone's going to the more easy to travel foldable drones. The camera's fantastic. Of course, it's not on a 3-axis gimbal, but for under $50, you shouldn't expect that. Mine came with 3 batteries. I think I looked out there, most of them have 2 batteries, comes with extra props. So should this be your first drone? Well, I've always said these little micro mini drones are the most fun to fly, and these are good for indoors, where this is not a good indoor drone because it's just too big as a beginner to fly indoors. So if you're wanting to fly outdoors and learn to fly outdoors, this one's gonna be up there for under $50. But the main thing I wanted to point out on this drone is how many different prices there are out there. Going from $159 to $149 all the way down to $45 is a huge thing. So it's just because it's at Best Buy doesn't mean it's the best price. Just because it's on Amazon and has a whole bunch of reviews on it doesn't mean that's the best price. Do your research. Or just message me under any of my reviews and I'll try to help you out find the best budget beginner drone at the best price. Because budget beginner drones have a very important place in the drone market, because these are important to buy first before you go out and spend thousands, and also to see if the drone hobby is for you. This is a great way to start. And you can always give it away, right? Or just keep it around to hone your skills when you haven't flown in a while. So as always, if you got something out of this, please like and subscribe. Subscribers mean everything to me in this channel, and I'll see you in the next one.